All right, this morning's day chair is Ellie Krug. At the age of 52, Ellie Krug transitioned from male to female while living in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Although not at all easy, transitioning genders gave Ellie the opportunity for a do-over in life, which has included working to make the world fairer and more inclusive for all humans, particularly those considered other. With over 100 civil trials to her credit, and I gotta say, 100 civil trials is a lot of civil trials. Ellie was the first Iowa lawyer to ever transition genders and one of the few attorneys nationally to try cases in separate genders. She later relocated to the Twin Cities, where she served as the founding executive director of a legal nonprofit that earned an American Bar Association award for innovatively increasing legal access. The author of Getting to Ellen, a memoir about love, honesty, and gender change, Ellie has presented on diversity and inclusion to governmental entities, court systems, Fortune 100 companies, law firms, nonprofits, and colleges and universities on more than 1,000 occasions. A hopeless idealist, Ellie has presented her human inclusivity training, gray area thinking across North America. In 2016, The Advocate magazine named Ellie one of the 25 legal advocates fighting for trans rights. She is a monthly columnist for Lavender magazine and a Minnesota Women's Press, and pens a widely circulated monthly e-newsletter, The Ripple, which reaches 9,000 readers. Ellie views herself as an inclusionist and founded an inclusion-oriented consulting and training company, Human Inspiration Works, LLC, in 2016. In 2019, the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal conferred its 2019 Business of Pride Career Achievement Award to Ellie and her company, Human Inspiration Works, LLC. In that same year, Outfront Minnesota, the state's largest LGBTQ advocacy organization, conferred on Ellie its 2019 Legacy Award. Ellie also is a weekly radio and podcast host. Her show, Ellie 2.0 Radio, on AM 950 in the Twin Cities, with more than 200 episodes, highlights idealism and how each of us can play a role in fostering positive change in the world. So welcome to our day chair, Ellie Krug.
Thanks, Scott, for that wonderful bio. I really appreciate it, of course, which I wrote. Hello, everyone. I'm happy and thrilled to introduce our speaker today, Rebecca Moncrief. She's going to speak on, or the title of her talk is Don't Let Joint Pain Wilt Your Garden. Rebecca received her Master in Occupational Therapy degree from the University of Minnesota, and also she holds a BA from Minnesota State in psychology. She has a background in upper extremity orthopedics rehabilitation, including post-surgical, work-related, and cumulative trauma. Rebecca also has experience with holistic cancer rehabilitation, which sounds actually quite important, and is passionate about establishing comprehensive, high-quality occupational therapy services for the diverse needs of cancer survivors. Although she has an orthopedic focus, she does not shy away from addressing cognitive or mental health barriers with her patients. She believes in collaborative, patient-centered care with an appreciation for the power of patient education and the therapeutic relationship. In her time away from the clinic, she enjoys reading, movies, cooking, exploring local foodie haunts, and spending time with her fiance and 2 fur babies. Everyone, please help me welcome Rebecca Moncrief as our speaker today.
Good morning. Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Rebecca Moncrief, and I don't think I need much further things to add to my introduction there. Thank you very much for that. I'm also Go for it. Thank you. I'm also here with Ashley Malvestad, who you met earlier today. And today we are here to talk about joint protection for springtime activities. Is it the middle button for this? Oh, right. Okay. All right. So the goal of today's program is to give you guys a better understanding of how you may be unknowingly putting extra stress on your joints, how to reduce some of that stress on your joints, and also to learn some exercises to help make your joints more resistant and stronger going forward. All right, and as you guys may know, as we get older, our body goes through some changes, and I'm not talking about puberty, we're all a little old for that, but I am talking about muscle loss. So by the age of 75, we actually lose about 50% of our muscle mass that we have as young adults. We also tend to lose the fast twitch muscle fibers at a faster rate than slow twitch muscle fibers, which means that we just don't have quite as fast of a reaction time for things that we're doing in our daily lives. And we also have a bit of a slowing down with our neurofeedback response. So the blood flow to the brain decreases, which slows down our nerve response time. And again, just makes us a little bit slower at doing things, but that doesn't mean that we can't do them just as accurately or as well as we could before. It just takes a little bit more time. All right, so that brings me to joints with aging. So give this one more click here, perfect. What can happen to our joints over time is arthritis. There's many types of arthritis, but today I'm going to focus on osteoarthritis, which is basically arthritis from just general wear and tear of the joints over time. These are some examples of what can happen to your joints. We can get some thumb deformity. We can also get little nodules at the end joints of our fingers, as you can see here. And once some of these changes start to take place in our joints, once we lose some of that cushioning within our joints, then we can't necessarily give you back what you were lost. But what we can do is prevent arthritis from occurring or prevent it from progressing once it starts to happen. And that brings us to our main topic of the day, ergonomics. So what is ergonomics? That's the relationship between a human, their activities, and the environment. It uses physiological and engineering principles to make motion and function more safe and efficient. And again, we do this by not only looking at the person, looking at what they're doing, but also looking at what the environment is how it's set up and how we can best optimize the environment to increase their performance. All right, and this brings us to 3 easy steps for helping your hands. And step number 1 on the next screen is bigger is better. All right. And what do I mean by bigger is better? Well, it has a few different meanings. And let's go. I know what one of them is, but I won't be talking about that today. So the first one is bigger joints. Using the bigger joints means using the shoulder or the elbow joints versus the small little finger joints. So some of you may already have discovered the trick of if you're carrying grocery bags and it's a little heavy for you, tossing them on the forearm to offload some of that weight. Same thing can apply for like women with handbags. Instead of using those little clutch purses where you're putting all the strain on your little finger joints, you can use a shoulder bag, and that's going to give you more stability when you're carrying things. All right. And bigger is better also talks about using not only the bigger joints, but also using the bigger muscles. And bigger muscles mean our nice strong postural muscles. And what does our posture have to do with using our arms? So I'm going to do a quick demo. So I'm going to start with nice straight spine and lifting arms above the head. And you can see it's pretty easy, that's good motion. And then I'm going to do a close spine and core posture. Try to lift my arms. It's hard for me to even get maybe a little more than that 50% range. A lot of that's what that is. So it really does make a big difference. All right, this is just an example of some of those big muscles that we want to be utilizing more, and those tiny finger muscles. You may have heard the phrase lift with or bend at your knees, not at your back when you're lifting. And that's so that we can use our big, strong glutes and thigh muscles versus the smaller low back muscles. All right. And again, talking about shoulders, now we know how important they are, but how do we use them with activities like gardening? So when we're reaching, we tend to put our hand down when we're reaching out away from the body, and we can tend to keep our thumb up when we're reaching close to the body. So a good thing to remember when you're doing things, especially gardening, keep your green thumb up, so up towards the sky. So when you're reaching and grabbing, that's going to help you grab things closer to the body and use more of your core muscles versus reaching away and using more of these smaller, weaker muscles. All right, bigger is better. Duo meaning also means using larger handles for your gripping. So these are some examples of just some cheap built up foam handles that you can apply to anything to build up the handle. And then we will go ahead and move to the next slide. And this slide shows how when you're using a small handle, it actually encourages joint deformity, which is going to put the force straight against the bone on bone, which is what creates arthritis. When we have a bigger handle, it naturally positions our hand in the best position to disperse the force, and it's going to save our joints and use more of our muscle power than our bones. So everybody say it with me. Number one, what did we learn? Yes, thank you. And number two, we're going to do motion is lotion. So what does motion is lotion mean? It basically means that motion is the best medicine. And all of our joints produce a fluid called synovial fluid that is excreted from the joint capsule in response to movement. So if you stop moving, then your joints are going to stop producing the synovial fluid, and that's going to create a cycle of pain and stiffness. But we want to create a happy medium between gentle, healthy motion and obviously doing activities that are creating that pain. Can go to the next one. So these are some examples of low impact exercises that you can get all the benefits of exercise, cardiac conditioning, strengthening, flexibility without putting strain on the joints. So swimming, water aerobics, side note, Tai Chi and yoga have both been really hot in the mental health world because of all the mental health benefits specifically from those two. Also just general lightweight training. All right, so now we've talked about the benefits of motion. So let's go ahead and get moving a little bit here. I'm going to have Ashley help me out with going around and giving you all gold stars on the exercises. You can stay seated for these. That's one of the things I like about hand exercises is that you can do all of them sitting watching TV. So let's go ahead and get moving with just a gentle claw, working the hand joint. So we're keeping the back of the hand straight. And so it's not a fist. We're keeping it just like a tiger claw. Good. Beautiful. Good. And then we'll go to fist. So now we're going to bring all the joints down. Very nice. All right. And then next one. And again, we're not squeezing with these. It's just gentle motion. It's just little flap or tabletop. So hands are nice and flat on top. Good. And then the last one, we're going to continue through tabletop, and the tips of our fingers are going to try and kind of reach down to where our wrist starts. So it's a little bit different than the fist. Good. All right. And we have one more hand exercise here. So we're going to look at each finger and the thumb, and we're going to touch the tip of our thumb to the tip of each finger. And I want you guys to concentrate on making a nice O shape, because again, thinking about kind of the biomechanics of this, when we do the pincer grasp here, all the force going into the thumb, it travels along the bone and goes straight to the CMC joint, which is most prone to arthritis in the hands. If you bend the thumb, only about a third of the force gets back to that CMC because it's dispersed evenly throughout the muscles on the joint. Let's do a few more of those. Beautiful. All right, and now we're gonna do one more exercise here. That's for spine mobility. Again, talking about the importance of the spine. Yes. So for this one, I want everybody to give me their best inner teenager. So work your spine, pretend like you're on your phone. No eye contact, heads down. And then we're gonna come up. We're gonna think nice straight back and like your royalty inner queen. And then we're gonna do a few more. All right, good work. So, everybody, early in the morning, let's go through them again. Number one, what is it? Beautiful. And what was number two? All right, now we're going to move on to our third and final step, which is moderation. So for moderation, it's all about dosing your activity for what's right for you. You can go ahead and click through. So everybody has their own unique recipe for an activity that's going to fit, again, your body, what you're doing, and the environment that you're in. And mistakes do happen. All right, so number one tip for moderation, let's not maintain the same position for too long. So that does go for when you're doing things around the house. If you're on your feet all day, make sure you're taking frequent rest breaks. Or if you're able to do the activity from a seated position, then doing it from a seated position can be easier on your joints. The inverse is also true though. If you are doing something sedentary for a long time, obviously it's important to take walk breaks or stretch breaks. And pacing. So if you can break things down into different steps, that can help to break up the repetitive motion that causes strain on the joints. Prioritizing your tasks so that you can get the most important things done. And then you have some B or C grade tasks that you can always push to another day if you do start having joint pain or fatigue. Setting attainable goals and then taking breaks as needed. So if you're one of those people who likes to power through an activity and just gets in the zone, setting an alarm to take breaks is a good way to kind of work around that and force yourself into rest breaks. And taking rest breaks short and frequent is better versus going to work for a long time and then kind of crashing and needing a long rest break. So if you kind of work ahead of yourself and take rest breaks before you get tired or before you get joint pain, then you can prevent it altogether rather than waiting until you have pain. Right. And of course, using modified equipment as needed. And here are some examples of applying some of the things that we talked about today, specifically to some springtime activities. So for gardening, again, using those principles of changing up your routine, buying the flowers or plants, taking them out of your vehicle, digging, planting, watering, all of those separate steps can be broken down into different times of the day or different days if needed. This also gives some good examples of some ergonomic gardening equipment. So they have a kneeler or a garden seat so that you can stay in a, again, position to use those core muscles more efficiently. And of course, we also have the raised garden beds, which eliminates a bunch of the ergonomic issues that can take place working at floor level. And talking about lifting and again, keeping those palms up when you're carrying anything for the garden. You want to do everything palms up close to the body and thumbs up, nothing with the hand down or away from the body if we can help it. Also, quick tip on weeding. Again, keeping green thumb up and trying to weed after irrigation or rain so that the soil is nice and soft. It'll just make things easier for us. And here's some examples of those built-up handles I talked about earlier. One of them is for a gardening tool that was bought as an ergonomic gardening tool. The other one, it was one that that you can just use the foam grip from the convenience or from the Home Depot to wrap around any type of equipment to change it. All right, and now on to safe lifting, which I'm going to ask Ashley to come help demonstrate for me. I had an ankle mishap last week, which is feeling pretty good. We're prone in this family to ankle issues, if you guys don't know. So she's going to take over for this part. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I do fine at work. I do well throughout the day. Oops. So the easiest way to avoid that is just by moving your feet. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a soft voice, so this helps. Thank you. But versus trying to lift or move or do it the easy way can result, especially if you're doing that repetitively, a lot of trauma to your back. So simply turn your feet, move your feet when you're lifting, moving, and then drop it like it's hot, right? So thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. And she works with a lot of work rehabilitation in her position. So she does a lot of safe lifting. All right. And we can go ahead and go through the next few slides. So another demonstration of the safe lifting that Ashley just went through, wide base of support. And it's important to keep your abdomen tight with this. So we're going to do another quick interactive part here where all we're going to do is we're going to engage our abs, but we're going to fight our natural instinct to hold our breath when we're engaging our abs. So that's the tricky part. All right, so everybody is going to think about that nice band of muscles around your core and tighten, but keep breathing just like you would normally. And you can feel kind of that nice little extra support it gives you. All right, and relax. Let's do that one more time. And tighten those abs. All right, very good. And on to the next slide. A good thing to think about also when lifting in terms of the neck and upper spine is keeping your head looking forward. So naturally our tendency is to look down at whatever we're lifting, but we actually want to look straight ahead to protect our joints further up the body. All right, and now on to another springtime activity that I know is going to be coming in hot here pretty soon. No pun intended. So the most common golf injuries are due to swing faults, poor conditioning, and just general loss of flexibility and strength that we talked about earlier. So some of the best things that you can do to combat golf injuries are simply doing a nice warm up before you start. So a 5-minute brisk walk to get the muscles loosened up, doing some practice swings and starting with the pitching wedge and then slowly progressing up to the driver. Practicing golf swings in the opposite direction to even things out, and then taking stretch breaks like we talked about. Anything that's a really repetitive motion, you just want to break up the movement as much as you can. And then also keeping up with your good general dynamic exercise routine so that you can keep up on your strength and your flexibility and your balance needed to stay out on the course. Right, and these are just some other resources in case you want more information on arthritis or joint protection. All right, so in review, Everybody, number one, number two, and our third one. Very good. Well, thank you guys so much for letting me come and speak about joint protection and apply it to some of the spring activities I know we're so excited to get back to with this lovely weather this week. And now we're going to open it up for questions.
Okay, one of the things I was taught a long time ago was for posture was put your shoulders back, let your arms drop, and try to get your navel to go to your back. And when you're out walking, just to relax. Is that something that is really helpful in terms of not only posture, but in terms of working well? Yeah.
Yeah, nope, those are both great things. There's actually something I do with a lot of clients called postural resets, where you bring your shoulders all the way up to the ears and then all the way back to the back wall. And then you hold them back and then push them down, and just keeping those abs engaged like you talk about. That's the prime postural start position for a lot of activities.
You mentioned balance being important. What are some good exercises or ways to maintain or improve your balance?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, some of the dynamic exercise approaches I think are some of the best out there. So that yoga, tai chi, things that are going to get you moving in more of a dynamic way. There's also just simple exercises where you can try doing things on one leg, just like simple leg lifts or things like that. Ashley, do you have anything to add to that?
So working on some of the one leg stands with your hands in place for safety, and then you can improve your vision to kind of help with that and progress on things and making it more challenging. But I think, like she mentioned, the big dynamic activities.
Thank you.
Ross has a question. Before the pandemic, there was this big push about stand-up desks. And so I wondered if you had a perspective about whether that creates benefit or harm in the long term to be using stand-up desks.
Yeah, so I think stand-up desks can be beneficial if they're used correctly. It's just really important that you have the standing position set up ergonomically as well as the seated position. I've definitely seen a few people who have come in because they didn't set up their standing desks correctly and ended up with some issues because of that. So I think, yeah, it is probably beneficial to split up how you're positioned during work. But again, just being mindful of how we're doing it. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, just taking walking and stretch breaks, I think can sometimes be just as beneficial as changing the work position.
All right, thank you so much, Rebecca. I'm going to have you stay up here for a minute. We basically used to give huge speaker gifts like a car or something, but now, now we ask you to sign a book. And this allows a third grader in Way to Grow to have a book signed by somebody in our community who has spoken to our group. And so we'll pass this along to Way to Grow after you sign it. And for you, we have a bookmark that's made by one of our partners in Haiti. So you can keep that bookmark as a keepsake. And thank you again so much. What a great presentation today. We appreciate it. All right, next week, we are continuing our series of women speakers in honor of Women's Month. And Leanne Rasicek and Carly Kammerer from Women Venture will be talking about empowering women to achieve their economic goals by building sustainable businesses. So you aren't going to want to miss that. I want to thank John Michelitz and Russ Michelitz today. John for the reflection, Russ for the song, Chris Morris, who was our greeter, Brock and Ross, as always, thank you for the great work that you do. And Mary Pat, thank you for doing your great job as club administrator. Until next week, have a great Rotary week.